Now, as soon as me or anybody else starts to throw out the word dark web, a lot of us inside the industry really just kind of start to have our eyes glaze over. That's definitely not my goal with bringing it up here. I wanted to talk, when I saw this come across, and this happened, after Monday's stream, I thought this was a really good opportunity to have a conversation about the darknet and really try to demystify parts of the darknet, try to make it less scary. And I want to kind of show you just how unscary the dark web can be. Obviously, I'll be a good tour guide, and I'll kind of tell you when to keep your hands inside the roller coaster ride, and when not to pet the animals or they might bite you, kind of thing. But I do want to kind of demystify some elements about the darknet, so it's not so scary. Now, yes, eventually we'll get to the dark web price index, and the reason why I want to bring up the dark web price index, there's a misconception by folks who are out there, and this is probably as much for the traditional cybersecurity folks as it is for the folks from Facebook who are watching us, who don't necessarily understand what the value of their personal information is out there on the darknet. There's actually an initiative out there by a company called Privacy Affairs, whereby they go out and price various categories and various things that are being sold out there on the darknet, so that you can understand just how much your data is worth out there. But we'll get into that here in a little bit. One of the first things that again I want to try to cover for everybody is let's demystify some of the darknet. Let's make sure that you're not scared of the darknet anymore, and that whenever the news organizations or your friends or other news articles and whatnot are out there, you're not worried about oh my gosh, this is terrible. Okay, so let's start with what is the darknet. What is the dark web? This is a very common visualization that folks use, right? And so I think it is cliche, it is kind of cheesy, but it's easy to talk about, right? When we think about Google, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, that's what we refer to as the World Wide Web. So the very tippy top of that iceberg that you see there, anything that you open up your browser and you can get to on a day-to-day basis, is oftentimes what we refer to as the World Wide Web or the clear web. The conversation we just had around DNS, any of those domains, right, they route pretty easily all across the internet because of DNS to anything in the clear. What's interesting about this, and that's that statistic, hopefully that's not too blurry on the stream, but that statistic right there, which is only 4% of the internet content includes these public websites. So only 4%. And just let that sink in for a minute about, how big the internet is, how many websites are out there. You couldn't browse the entire internet, right? You couldn't browse the entire ClearNet, the World Wide Web, in a day. But yet it only encompasses about 4% of the entire internet content that exists out there. And this is oftentimes where we start to get into this concept of the deep web and the dark web. Now, it is, again, demystifying cyber, right? Deep web and dark web, I know that they've got the names here and kind of the breakouts between the deep web and the dark web. I would simply, for the folks who are looking at this, look at the tippy top of the iceberg and then everything else that's underneath. And that's what encompasses what we would oftentimes refer to as the dark web. There are networks out there that truly are, a subset of computers that only have access to each other. For example, this computer can only talk to this computer, or the 6 computers in a circle can only talk to each other. Those are very, very rare networks, and those are some of the hardest networks to crack or to even get into or to even investigate, because they oftentimes require a level of credibility or a level of credentials, or in the case of hacker forums, it's not uncommon for hacker forums to require you to prove your bona fides, if you will, prove your ability to be worthy to be on those hacker forums by doing something malicious. There's these ideas that you have to vouch for somebody, which yes is indeed true. If you knew of a hacker that already had access to those forums and you were trying to get into them and they were willing to vouch for you, that's one way to get into those hacker forums. But typically those hacker forums are looking for you to prove yourself to them by basically doing something malicious. And so looking across the deep web and the dark web, right, and the World Wide Web, this is a pretty good visualization, so you understand that what you see on a day-to-day basis is really, really, really so small compared to everything else that's out there. With that being said, then always comes the question of how does one get to the deep web, right? And I know this is where we start to lose people, right? Because it's like, oh no, I don't ever want to do that. Everybody's got this vision that like to go to the dark web is to like walk down this dark alley where you're probably going to get mugged, and I know that what we see on the media and what we see on the mainstream really kind of lends itself to treating the dark web like that. But to understand the dark web is understand why the dark web was first created, in the first place. Way back when, the Navy actually created the first concept, or one of the first concepts, one of the first mainstream accessible, I shouldn't say that, one of the first mainstream accessible, versions of the darknet. But it wasn't for clandestine purposes. It wasn't for spies or, anything like that. It was actually because as sailors went to countries like China, to Vietnam, to places overseas whereby they had very autocratic and restrictive governments, the Navy wanted to make sure that as those sailors were communicating via email or chat clients or, even surfing, the web, whatever they were surfing at the time, they had a way to do so that was outside of the prying eyes of some of those autocratic governments. And so the Navy created what we now refer to as the Tor project. And so if you're not familiar with Tor, right, Tor is just a short version of the onion router, right? And the idea behind the onion router, right, is that it's just like an onion, not that it stinks, for those who are Shrek references, right? But you can peel away the different layers before you actually get to the center of the onion. So what does that actually look like? And so this is a really good kind of depiction of what the Tor network actually looks like, right? Where you've got a client that sits out here that makes a request into a bunch of IP addresses inside of this Tor network, but then eventually comes out of the Tor network onto another server on the other side, whether that's Google, whether that's Facebook, whatever it is that comes out the other side. But as you can see, because of these layers of onion that exist inside of this cloud, it becomes very, very hard to trace the traffic. It's all encrypted, point to point. So like, as this node connects to this node, this traffic is encrypted. As this node connects to this node, it's encrypted, all the way out. And so this is what gives Tor kind of its famous moniker of being anonymous. Because if it's done right, if it's done correctly, as your traffic leaves your client here and goes into the network, it gets shuffled around so many places and so many times between all of these anonymous computers that when it comes out the other side, that traffic could source from Russia, from Ukraine, from France, from the UK. It could source from your backyard. It doesn't have to source from anywhere overseas, and that's what gives people that level of anonymity. And this is what the Navy was actually trying to achieve when they created the Tor network. Now, as Tor has gained adoptability and gained kind of visibility, right, if you will, all across the world, obviously, folks who are intentionally trying to avoid prying eyes have had a tendency to also adopt the anonymous benefits of the Tor network, and of course I'm kind of toying around the idea of criminals and cyber criminals. They can use the Tor network to, do their best to try to evade and attempt to hide from, law enforcement that's out there. there are ways around that, obviously, and we can see that when we see big high-profile arrests, like and seizures of websites like Silk Road and some of the other high-profile darknet sites that are out there. But because of the complexity that exists inside of something like the Tor network, it makes it really hard for law enforcement to try to get there and to try to shut down some of these darknet sites. So how easy is it to get onto the darknet? Well, I'm glad you asked, for those who asked inside their head. Okay, to simply get onto Tor, you simply go to torproject.org and you simply download the Tor browser. That's right, for your operating system. And as you can see, they have a Windows version, they have an OS X version, they have a Linux version, and they have an Android version. Okay, and it's simple. It's as simple as clicking on any of these and downloading it. And let's hope that my demo goes as planned. You can see that what happens then is you get a little icon for the Tor browser. In my case, I'm running OS X, obviously. You'll get a little icon for the Tor browser. So if we click on this, you can see that it comes up really quickly with this box where it is attempting to connect to the darknet. Boom. That's it. I'm on the darknet. I don't hear any cops. Nobody's knocking on the door. I don't hear any helicopters. Okay, cool. No ninja. That's it. I'm on the darknet, and no. For a second there, I was really worried that demo was going to fail. But that's how easy it is, and just like that, we're using Tor. In this case now, what I will caution people of, right, is once you're here, this is like one of those moments where where do you go from here? It is not uncommon for people to just use Tor completely to surf normal internet. Okay. In this case, I went to a search engine called DuckDuckGo. I did that because, and we'll see if the demo gods shine a light on me or not. Depending on where my exit node is, I may or may not get. Okay, so in this case, I did get a Google one, but you can see that I got looks like Google out of Germany here. It's kind of hit or miss, and I'll be straight, be honest with you, is that you may put in Google here and Google may present you with a CAPTCHA because you may be coming out of a node that has been associated with some malicious activity because you're effectively coming out of the same node that an attacker is coming out of and doing something malicious. And so it is kind of hit or miss sometimes in terms of which service you get. But as you can see, you have access to all the same ClearNet resources that you have access to in a normal environment. It's not scary at all, is it? And so now you're passing all your traffic through the darknet. It's going through this mesh of machines here and then coming out the other side to the Google server. And so Google can't tell if it's you sitting at your home in the States. It can't tell if it's you sitting at your home in France or in Greece or in anywhere else. And so it has to treat you just like whatever user is in that country, which is why you see me getting presented with a Google from, I think that's German. It looks German. Anybody who's a linguist can probably tell me otherwise. But so that's how easy it is to get onto the darknet. So right now I've got this browser. This browser's on the darknet. Now let's talk about accessing what we refer to as hidden services. So if we go back kind of to our example, right, we're now passing all of our traffic through and things like that. But let's say that I actually want to access a website. I want to actually access a darknet website that exists kind of in this part of the world, right? This is where we get into this concept of hidden services, right? Because these services don't have normal IP addresses or normal domain names. And I'll kind of show you an example of that here in a little bit, so bear with me. That's why they're hidden, is because they're not routable. The only way to get onto them is with your Tor browser. Okay, that's why they're hidden. And so what does that look like? There's a good site out there, that, well, let's talk about a couple things, right? There is a way that you can look for websites that you can go to. There's oftentimes a hidden wiki, type of web page, that you can go to, and it's got different onion addresses. And so if you look at, right, like this right here, you can see that most, or pretty much all of the darknet sites that are out there have a .onion at the end of it. And so in this case, we've got, DuckDuckGo, which, again, the same one here, duckduckgo.com, that you see me accessing here. You can see that we can also access its darknet version here on the darknet through its onion site. So again, completely legitimate service. This is what it looks like on the normal internet, on the clear internet. This is what it looks like on the onion. Okay? So again, just to reiterate, the one DuckDuckGo that we looked at, duckduckgo.com, is up here. The duckduckgo.onion is down here. And that's how easy it is to browse either through the darknet to ClearNet sites, or actually browse inside the darknet. So let's kind of talk about how easy it is to find darknet markets, right? And so these are the places like Silk Road. These are the places like Agoria, or Alphabay, some of the ones that you've heard on the news that have gotten shut down. Let's talk about just how easy it is to find some of these very, very mainstream darknet markets. And so there's a website out there, just right here, DN Stats. It stands for Darknet Stats, or Darknet Statistics. This is one of many sites that actually goes out and scrapes darknet markets that are existing out on the darknet, and tracks their uptime. If you're a aspiring cyber criminal, or if you're trying to buy drugs, whatever the case is, you really want to make sure that what the up and down status is, of the particular darknet market that you're trying to shop on. And so this website gives you kind of that status. It's got featured sites here. So these are names of different darknet markets that it is currently tracking the stats of. And so if we were to take a look at, let's go click on markets here for a little bit, you can see that as this comes up, we've got a list of darknet markets here. We've got their statuses that are up, how long that they've, what the percentages that they've been up, and any type of user reviews that may go along with it. We'll pick one that's got a pretty high uptime. That way we don't risk it not being up. So again, you can see that this is definitely a darknet site because of the quintessential .onion domain that's listed here. And so, whoops, that did not work as expected. That was a demo fail right there. Hate it when that happens. Let's try another one. See if this one comes up. All right. Well, that was definitely not supposed to happen. We can see if we can. I'm just going to try one last thing to see if I can't make this one work. Oh, the demo fail is on this guy. The demo fail is on me because I'm trying to connect to it through a ClearNet web browser, right? So again, my failure is you're learning. As I click on this, right, I'm still in my Safari window, right? I'm trying to get to it from the ClearNet. So this browser is not routing all of its traffic through the darknet. And so we can then simply take this web address here, this .onion web address. We can come over here to our Tor browser. We can put that .onion address inside of there, and the demo should work for us now. Now, it is not uncommon for Tor sites, darknet sites, to run very slowly. Again, remember that traffic is going, potentially all over the globe. You can see that in this particular case, this particular exit node happened to be, in Germany, and so because of that, probably our traffic is getting routed a couple different places. I'm trying to talk and to stall at the same time in hopes that this website will come up. We can go ahead and try a different one and see if we can make another one come up for us. I just want to kind of show you, let's go with this one here. Okay. All right. Nope. There we go. Okay. So that's right. I went to this one earlier. So in this case, you can see that the onion address that was on file by Darknet Stats is no longer in use. Okay. And so this is not uncommon, right? So you see the primary URL is moving to a completely different onion site. They do that frequently, where they move around from one darknet site to another darknet site to try and try to throw law enforcement off or try to throw folks off, and so it's not uncommon for that to happen. And so let's see if I can zoom this in a little bit. So here on this darknet market site, you can see in this case, here's some drugs for sale, right? You can kind of see the prices of it, the grams, all the way down. All right, so not that hard, not that scary to go from how do we get to the darknet, going to some of these darknet sites. Now, obviously, what you do from here, how you handle yourself, this is no different than like going to a city or doing some other things that you may or may not necessarily be familiar with when you go to some questionable areas of the neighborhood or questionable parts of the city. And so traverse with caution, right? It's taking the gloves off. It's taking some of the bumper pads off of surfing the internet. And so with that in mind, I would definitely, encourage you to kind of just be aware of where you're going and how you're going there. You're not going to get in trouble for surfing the darknet. If you bump across something, like in this case, like a darknet market, you're not going to trouble for visiting a darknet market, right? That's not illegal to visit the website. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV, but I don't expect the feds to come knocking on my door simply because I showed you this demo. With all that being said, again, to try to just really demystify the dark web, that's kind of what I was trying to get at with that demo. Hopefully that was useful. Hopefully you saw that, it's not that hard. It's not that, it's not that scary. It's actually something that if you're curious and interested in terms of how all that technology works, it's actually pretty, it's actually pretty interesting. This kind of gets us to the main point of this part of the segment, which was the dark web price index survey for 2020. So the market that I showed you, and in this case, this particular market happened to be selling drugs. That's not the only type of market that's out there. Your personal information is for sale on the darknet, and I don't know how much more clearer to make it. If we, I probably could do another demo at some other point in time in a different stream where, I actually go to some of these darknet markets and actually show you folks who are selling personal information, selling credit card information, selling passports and things like that. But the darknet markets that are out there very much are not just selling drugs; they're selling other types of activities. And so this price index that's put out by these guys at Privacy Affairs, I wanted to share this with you guys because here's a conversation that I have very, very frequently, folks, is the so what? So what my credit cards get stolen? So what my identity gets stolen? I've got to dispute a couple of charges on my account. The bank will take care of me anyway. It's not that big of a deal. And this gets back to kind of what we talked about on Monday's stream, where we talked about desensitizing the normal user when it comes to how their information is handled and the protection of their information by banks and whatnot and things like that. They don't typically understand what the value of the information that they have is to folks that are out there. And this is why I loved the price index for the dark web, and I wanted to share this with you guys because I wanted to kind of walk through just a couple of categories and ideas to kind of show you exactly what it is that we're talking about when we talk about what your value is worth. It's broken down by category. And again, I'll include the links for this when we upload the video, actually, I'll put this one in chat. This is one if you want to kind of peruse, instead of waiting for the video, I'll kind of throw this one. I'll kind of throw this one in chat for everybody to see, if they want to kind of peruse this one now. So, if this doesn't come through chat, then let me know, and we'll push it through all the different channels. But it should get to all the chats. But as you can see here, credit card data. All right, so when you look at it, it's category, it's product, and then an average price on the dark web for that, right? And so a cloned MasterCard with a PIN. So this is just your normal credit card. They've got a PIN for it. So this oftentimes happens when you go to the gas station or go to the ATM, or even go to a point of sale system in a gas station or at a Target or a Home Depot or somewhere like that. You put your credit card in, and you push your PIN in on that keypad. There's a skimmer, or there's a device that's taking your credit card number and watching you, type your PIN in at the same time, and it's taking both of those pieces of data and sending them off to a cyber criminal. We could do an entire segment on credit card fraud. There's a lot to talk about there with credit card fraud. Lots of different ones. You can see they even break down by MasterCard, American Express, Visa. And a lot of these are because, like, American Expresses typically have higher limits, and so this is gives the cyber criminals an opportunity to kind of rack up more charges with an American Express than they do with some of the others. Card details that that they can guarantee that the balances are up to $1,000 and $5,000 and whatnot. Stolen bank credentials. You can see payment processing services, which is like PayPal's and Western Unions and things like that. We can get down here to the forged documents, driver's license. You can see that a high quality U.S. driver's license is $550. And so if you go to, an overseas location, or if you go to Mexico on vacation or something like that, and you lose your wallet and you lose your ID, you may have lost it legitimately just by misplacing or something like that. But it's not uncommon for those to have actually been stolen by thieves and pickpockets, and then sold to other criminals, and then then sold out on the dark net. That's an example of where a kinetic-based crime, like just theft, then makes its way into somebody who's savvy in terms of selling things on the dark net market and being able to go out on the dark net market and sell it from there. There's also a case where if you ever had to scan in your driver's license and send it to somewhere for verification, if that database ever gets compromised, then that stuff's up for sale. You can see, all sorts of hacked social media accounts. Social media accounts are huge. You can see kind of the price of, like, Facebook is $75. That's because of the amount of people you can reach. If you think about how many people you have on your Facebook page, how many people are following you on Facebook, if somebody were to get a hold of a hacked Facebook account, then they would instantly use all your entire friends list and kind of use that instant messenger function to instantly instant message all your friends and try to infect them with as much malware as possible. As a matter of fact, even on the corporate side, I've seen numerous incidents whereby an attacker will send a phishing email or something like that to an organization, and then as soon as they get access to that organization, they immediately use everybody in that person's contact list to send even more phishing emails outside of that, to try to, again, propagate their malware infection and whatnot. And so, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, obviously Gmail is pretty huge because most people store their passwords and their sensitive information inside their Gmail account, or they'll use their Gmail account to, as authentication mechanisms for their banks or their retirement accounts and things like that. And so you can kind of see, the values of those go up because of the value of the data that an attacker can get out of those things. You can see it goes down and talks about, average cost of malware, and then you kind of get down here at the bottom and you can kind of see, DDoS attacks, so a distributed denial of service attack. This is, one of those where you can pay to have a website brought down. So we saw this a lot. This may sound trivial, but, this is actually pretty lucrative for cyber criminals, right? Which is, you've got, folks who play Minecraft and run their own Minecraft server. And so as part of running that own Minecraft server, somebody may actually pay for a hacker or somebody like that to DDoS or to bring down somebody's Minecraft server. And you can see that, get paid pretty lucrative to have that type of DDoS as a service. And so good resource. The kind of the bottom line here, kind of the WIFM or the what's in it for me for folks, right, is that your information is for sale on the darknet. There are people out there actively, not only stealing your information, but then also using that information, to turn a profit and to make more money off of. So very, very real threat out there.